Go ahead. Go ahead.
We have this debate all the time. Do as I say, not as I do, because these children have way more exposure to what I call cognitive structuring. They understand the fact that their thinking controls their behavior. They understand that. So when they see parents say, okay, um, don't lie, but then and they see the parent lie, these kids are intelligent enough to like call the parent out on that, because there's this big push for accountability and all these things. Back in the day, it was you just do it because I'm grown and you're a kid. And I think that does not teach kids how to think for themselves. That just literally shows them who's in charge. But you're not going to be in charge of them their entire life. So once they leave your house, they don't know how to think and make effective decisions. Like you just basically being told what you can and cannot do. And I remember being a kid asking, well, why I can't do that? And I was told, you're talking back. So it's failing us because we're raising a generation of children who they don't learn how to think for themselves. Because what happens when junior or baby girl go to college? Well, my mama didn't let me do that. And it's always going to be that friend that says, well, your mama ain't here. What is it going to be their response? How are they going to think for themselves? So it's just, I've been waiting to say that out loud, because he literally was taught this as a kid. Like, we have this debate all the time, do as I say, not as I do. But my perspective, especially when we're raising our own daughter, is it's okay for her to ask questions, because I want her to know how to think for herself. This does not promote thinking. This promotes you do what I tell you to do.
Right. I agree with that. I think that, kids are developing, and if they're always seeing one thing and you're telling them to do something else, you're not even teaching them how to do what you're telling them to do. You're literally teaching them the exact opposite. I think about this a lot, pertaining to how adults and children solve conflict. You have parents who will tell their kid, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. But how they solve conflict is jumping to conclusions, going from 0 to 100, cursing everybody out, not taking accountability. I see this all the time. And I'm like, well, no wonder their kids solve conflict the way they do. What you think, Cannon?
No, I totally agree. I say that all the time, that when parents say, do as I do and not as I say, they're not taking into account that children are going to emulate you, because that's all that you're giving them to do. Like, I remember I was friends with someone, and she used to curse at her child like it was no tomorrow, like just the way she used to talk to her. And then my son came in and like told on the child and was like, they were cursing at their toys and they said this. Like, he was like 3, and they was around the same age, maybe 3 or 4. And then so to chastise the child, it was crazy to me, because like, cause I didn't curse at my kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mother didn't curse at me. So like, I don't curse at them. You know what I mean? They may hear me curse, they ain't gonna, but I don't curse at them. Right. So, so I'm like, he came and told, and she was like, what words did they say? Da, da, da. So then he repeated it, and she go in there and she's like, what I tell y'all? And just start cursing the baby out like the same way. And I'm like, well, they just playing what they do is the same way, doing what you doing right now, like copying you. And it was just crazy to me that it was like, she didn't even notice that even in that moment. Like, how do you not see, like, they literally doing what they see you do and what they heard you do, and they're acting it out? You know what I mean? So yeah, exactly. I think that doesn't work well in any regard, because again, kids are just, they're gonna follow and do what they see happening. They're not just gonna listen to the words that you're telling them, and that's just what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. One Facebook user says, I don't think it's a fail, it's up to the child. I wouldn't say that it's a fail for every single family. I think it's a fail when the kids see more dysfunction than they see, positivity.
Right.
Because no parent's perfect, right? So you have parents who are fairly good parents, right? Like they are trying their best. For the most part, they're showing their kids the right way to do things, meaning the way that is most productive, the way that is most respectful to other people. Like for the most part, they're setting a good example. Like you guys set good examples for your kids, right? If you said that one time, a couple times, your kids wouldn't go to the wayside, right? Because you all have been instilling certain things in them. I think it's most hurtful when like the kids just aren't seeing enough positivity. They're not seeing enough, effective problem solving. They're not seeing enough accountability. They're not seeing enough respect. Like that's when it's becoming a problem, because you're saying, oh well, don't do this, but you're showing them the exact opposite constantly. And I love the way you talked about questioning, like, and how people how kids have to learn things, and one way they learn is by asking questions.
Exactly. Exactly. Because what's the difference between when a parent tells a child, okay, you can't do this, and the child asks why? What's the difference between them asking that why versus when they ask the why in a classroom setting? Like, what's the difference? Especially if we're such a big advocate on saying and thinking that home is the first school. I say that all the time. The very first level of some type of education is supposed to come from home. And so when kids are asking questions, why do we as brown people in our culture, why do we assume they're being disrespectful? Or why do we assume that they're challenging authority? I literally used to ask why because I wanted to know why. Like, especially like when I used to get physically disciplined. Like, why does it take you to hit me to actually teach me something? When you could just tell me, okay, this is why you should not do this. Like, why does it have to be, everything got to be by trial and error, or you got to fuss at me to teach me how to do it, or you got to yell, why does it have to be that way? Like, and why can't parents just step up and say, we make mistakes too. We're not perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, we make mistakes, That's just like the other night, we were having a conversation with our daughter, and we were explaining to her that sometimes parents, mom and dad, we have disagreements. And what she dictated back to us clearly showed me that she comprehends that people disagree. So I think sometimes we cut our kids at their knees. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt that they might actually be capable of holding a conversation. And it's not like you're being grown or you're being disrespectful. It's just that they're literally doing what you're teaching them how to do. You can't get mad if they see you like you can't get upset if you're in a home where you're raising sand with another adult, for example, and then they start to demonstrate that same behavior. You can't just get upset. Well, why are you doing that? You're showing them that that's what you do. You're showing them that. So it's like 80-20. It's like 80-20, literally.
All right. We got Triple OG. What do you think?
What's up, y'all?
Hey.
So I mean, it's I think the most effective way to be a leader is to lead by example. So I feel like if you tell your kids to do something, you should resemble the thing that you told them to do. Even if, and I know it's like, I'm grown now, I can do certain things that you can't do. So when you try to do these things that I do and I tell you don't do it, I feel like as a parent, you should explain to them, if they at age enough to comprehend what you're saying. I feel like you should explain to them like the reasons behind certain things, because kids just need to know certain things. They just can't be in the dark about things. And then like I believe Miss Jovo said, like, once they go out on their own, they never had a reason or an understanding of why you're not supposed to do this. So curiosity is going to even be more raised, you know, like because they want to know why he or she said don't do it now. If you would have told them then, or even like through life, you have different examples of certain stuff that you explain to them. So you can tell them like, no, don't do XYZ, and then give them examples of what happens when you do XYZ, or show them examples of when you do XYZ, even if it's not through your life, like TV programs they watch. When you hear about certain things, you know, come sit down explaining them like, yeah, you know, Tommy down the street just did this and that. I'm pretty sure his parents told him the same thing I told you, and guess what happened to him? You know, just, you know, explain to him like treat people need to start treating kids like they're humans, like they have a brain, like they at some point they will be making decisions for themselves, instead of treating kids like they like they robots with commands to do this, do that, you know, and then they just expect them to do it, because that's nobody does that, not even from birth. You can't even brainwash a kid to do exactly what you say, exactly how you say it. At some point they're going to, you know, do some different things, you know, because their mind is just going to be, you know. But so I think, you know, just to lead by example, you have to, you know, resemble that.
Okay. I agree with that. So one of our Facebook viewers said or asked, what's considered dysfunction? No one is perfect. I feel everyone has a dysfunction in their families. And I did make fun, I made mention of that. Like, nobody is perfect. No parenting is perfect. And I don't think there's necessarily one right way to parent either. But I think we could all agree that certain things are dysfunctional. Like if you're always yelling, if how you problem solve in your house is yelling, screaming, cursing, leaving, those things are dysfunctional. Why are they dysfunctional? Because they don't help the situation. They don't solve the problem. They actually make them worse. So if you're telling your kid, you know, stop yelling at your brothers and your sisters, or go to school and listen to the teacher and don't talk back, and, you know, use your words to solve your problems and not fight all the time, you might as well not be talking, because they're really going to do what they see you do all the time. So yes, nobody is perfect. I'm not saying that there is a perfect way of parenting. I'm not saying that no family has dysfunction, but there are certain things that are just outright unarguably dysfunctional, right? And so for some people, you know, like constantly hearing do as I say, not as I do, is failing them. It's not setting them up for success as an adult. So
I think most parents that do even use that, I know back in the day, that was like the thing to do, because they was just so, and I think it was because they was so they wasn't too far removed from civil rights and all that other stuff. So it was like you don't even have time to be questioning stuff. Like, we need to do this right now, because if not, this is life or death. Like, so don't do this, don't go there, don't say this to this person. And I think that mindset kind of like trickled over into like our grandparents and parents. But now we're at that point where, you know, like, we don't have to be moving like that no more. Like, no, why you don't want me to go down there? Like, why can't I say this to this person? Why can't I go around in this area? You know, and so I think that trickled over into that era where, you know, don't say nothing. But the people that say that now, I think it's just the parents that say that now, I think it's just because of control. You know, like they just need to feel some type of control because of maybe how they were raised, and they feel like this is some militant stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. But I do believe at a time there was a reason for parents to say, just do as I say. You know what I'm saying? Like, mm-hmm. you know, don't be questioning me. Boom. But this time, with all this technology and with all the different strategies that we have learned on how to parent, and the ways we have learned how minds work, and you know, mental behaviors and stuff like that, I think we supposed to be more advanced enough to communicate with our kids when we tell them to do something.
Right. Okay. I agree with that. I completely agree.
And it's more that we got to teach kids more than compliance. We got to. Like back in the day, it's very different from, say, like my dad